Good evening and welcome. I'm Glenda Carr, President and CEO of Higher Heights for America. Thank you for joining us for this special live stream hashtag She's Got Next. The moment is ours. Tonight is about power, possibility, and purpose. It is about Black women stepping forward, not waiting for permission, and claiming that their rightful place is running for office to help shape the future of our democracy as we look towards the 2026 midterm elections. All across America, Black women are running at every level of government, from Congress to statewide offices. Black women are showing what we are made of, that we have the lived experiences, that we have the qualifications to lead in this very moment. This program will highlight the Black women who have answered the call. So before we start, drop into the chat where you are watching from. We understand that in this moment, our communities have issues that are at top of mind and in top of mind of the nation. And so tonight, we are going to introduce you to just a growing list of Black women who are running for office this cycle. They include, and make some noise if you're excited about it, um, Jasmine Crockett, who's running for U.S. Senate in Texas. Uh, Amanda Edwards, who is running for special election in Texas 18th District. And there are two Black women running and vying for the U.S. Senate seat in Illinois, Congresswoman Robin Kelly and Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton. And the mayor that we used to call Keisha from Atlanta, the former mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Lance Bottoms, who is running for governor in Georgia. We will spend the evening hearing about their stories, hearing about their candidacies, and hearing about their run for the 2026 election. But before we get started, we're going to have a conversation with our very own national political director, Jay Brandon, who will come on and talk a little bit about the races we're watching and the races that may not be at top of mind, but are races that we are watching that we want to bring to you throughout the year. So, welcome, Jay.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening, Glenda. How are you doing?
I'm good. Can you share a little bit? Like we already know, we're highlighting some of our early races that we've endorsed but share a little bit about the landscape. We started 2025 where people were like, Black women are resting, and we ended the year with celebrating the number of Black women who ran, won, and became mayors of not only large top 100 cities, but also small cities across the country. Then we enter into the 26 election cycle, and we are watching Black women running. So share a little bit about what you're watching.
I think that's a good question to kick off this conversation. I think it allows for us to talk about the immediate things that are happening, as well as what's coming up throughout the year. 2026 is going to be a busy election year, and so it helps us to set the tone for the marathon campaign cycle, as well as talking through the things that will be needed to win this year. So, as you talked about, you mentioned Amanda Edwards. Texas 18th is finally having its election to select the next congressperson that's going to represent that district. I say finally because the governor has been sophomoric in his leadership in choosing an election date so that this community does have fair representation. So on January 31st, Amanda Edwards is on the ballot. You will hear more from her a little later, but I think it's important to note that she will be running. This seat has historically been in the hands or has been historically been held by a Black woman. And I think it's important that we return a Black woman to this particular seat. Also happening across the first quarter and kicking off the 2026 primary season is Texas. On that ballot, March 3rd, we'll have U.S. Representative Jasmine Crockett vying for the Democratic primary for U.S. Senate there. And Amanda Edwards will also be on the ballot for the new congressional 18th District of Texas. Also happening. in the first quarter, and I think it's good to highlight. You'll also hear from some of the candidates in this particular contest as well tonight. But Illinois holds its primary on March 17th. There, you're going to have Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton as well as Representative Robin Kelly vying to be the next U.S. Senator from Illinois on that contest. But you also have first-time candidate Yasmin Bankole, who's seeking to fill the congressional seat in Illinois' 8th. And I want to take a second to talk about something that's not necessarily happening in the first quarter, but I think should still be on our radar. May 19th, in Georgia, they will hold their primary. And I think it's important to highlight not only is Keisha Lance Bottoms running to be the next governor there, but you have Black women that are running for statewide executive offices in other contests happening there, the AG seat, as well as the Secretary of State. So having that on our radar to know about, I think helps us, like I said, to prepare for the long road ahead that we have in this 2026 election cycle.
Can you share a little bit about the power of this network, right? Those who are watching, you're part of the Higher Heights community, you're part of the hashtag Black Women Lead crew. We have gotten on buses to support Black women running for office. We have virtually sat at home and made phone calls. We've done texts. We've done postcards. We've called our network. Share a little bit about how we're going to be activating our networks and how those who are watching tonight can be engaged in our mobilization work.
Yeah, I think this is a good conversation to continue to keep having now as well as across the year. We get to think about the fact that there are so many Black women running for office. I can't stress that enough. That is a beautiful thing. It's a something we talk about in the office often as we're navigating the political conversations, as we're navigating conversations around endorsements. And in this moment, we have multiple races where there are multiple Black women running to fill a seat. There are first-time Black women running, first-time candidates running, as well as the opportunity to send another Black woman to the U.S. Senate. And to get there, it's going to take a collective effort. It's going to take everyone doing a little bit of everything to get us there. So I encourage everyone to ensure that we are taking notes, that we have key bits of information, so that once we leave this space, we're able to go into action. So things such as phone banking. We are currently running phone banks for Amanda Edwards through that election day, but we'll also have phone bank opportunities for other candidates as those primaries are continuing to be executed. If you particularly focusing on Houston in this moment, if you're in Houston, if you have family, if you have friends there, be talking to them about the upcoming elections. Voter education is highly important. It is necessary that folks across the country know the particulars when it comes to election deadlines, election dates, so that we're all informed, but that we're also able to take part. So be talking to them about the upcoming special election happening at the end of this month on the 31st. Be talking to them about volunteering to support Amanda Edwards. Be talking to them about making a plan to go and vote. Visit our social medias. We are constantly posting different pieces of information about the candidates, about their campaigns, about the work of Black women leading in elected office. And we need your support to continue to elevate, to make that visible. So when you see an endorsement announcement, if you could share it, it's a quick repost or a tap to put it on your stories. I'd like to encourage everyone to make sure they're registered to vote. We know that in this current chaotic time where democracy is constantly under attack, we can't take for granted that we're all our I's are dotted and the T's are crossed. So be checking your own voter registration, and then in that, talk to your family, talk to your community, talk to your friends and your networks about their voting registration, their voting history, who they're voting for. Donate your time, donate your dollars. Candidates need that support. All of it, again, helps to move the campaign forward to winning. And then as we think about just the collective and again what it looks like to win in November, start making a plan now. Know again when your primary dates are. Know if there's a runoff race that is bound to happen for your state or your local elections, when those dates are. And then make a plan in general to vote in the general election on November 3rd. And then continue to come back. Like I said, there are going to be volunteer opportunities across the year as we continue to support candidates, and having you all involved in that will be necessary. Glenda, you're muted.
Of course, 13 years into Zoom, you forget to unmute. So we have a jam-packed evening. Jay's going to be in the chat. We're going to continue to drop ways for us to engage. We know that there's power in our numbers, and we are going to be able to take back this democracy by electing Black women and for us to be prepared for voters. So thank you, Jay, for giving us and setting the stage for this evening. We're going to start tonight in Texas. I've been spending a lot of time in Texas. It's my third-ish home. And to hear from Amanda Edwards, a candidate for Congress in the 18th Congressional District. It's a special election. She's a proud Houston native, an attorney, a former city council member at large, founder of a nonprofit that empowers people across generations. She is running, as Jay mentioned, for historic 18th Congressional District. It's the district that Barbara Jordan held and represented and in with distinction. And this is a special election that we need to pay attention to and be engaged in. It's on January 31st. And so you may have previously seen this, but we sat down with Amanda Edwards for a Sunday brunch segment, and we thought it was important for you to hear this conversation. And so take a look at Amanda Edwards and her vision for our country, her district, and for Congress. So, Amanda, it's campaign season, and we're counting down to this November's election, proving that every election matters. You are running for a special election to fill the vacancy of Texas Congressional District 18, which is a historic district. Lots of conversation about redistricting in Texas. Before we get into a discussion around the politics of the moment in Texas, share a little bit about your journey. You're, originally from Houston. You've sowed your time, talent back into the city that raised you.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, Glenda, this is a really critical time in our nation's trajectory. And so to be at the center of this redistricting fight and battle and be at the center of this, special election is a really important time. I'm no stranger to the 18th Congressional District, which of course is historic. It was once held by Barbara Jordan, Nikki Leland, Craig Washington, Sheila Jackson Lee, and Sylvester Turner, who all of them fought for people and for justice. And so it's important that the next leg of this journey be someone who can uphold that legacy of fighting for what's right, no matter what the consequences, but also somebody who can truly forge a path for our future, one in which we can all thrive. And I think that's the objective and goal. For me, I take it very personally on a number of levels because I did grow up in a district. I was born and raised there. I still live in the district to this day. And, it's important to me that we get it right when it comes to making sure that we have opportunity we create for our small business owners. My great uncles used to own an old C&L shoe repair on Lyons Avenue in the heart of the district, in the historic portion of the district. And so when I think about small business ownership, or when I think about things like healthcare, when I was growing up, my father was very sick with something called multiple myeloma, which ended up taking his life when I was a teenager. And so I remember asking my dad questions about what would happen if the insurance, what if they said no to the life-saving treatments that my father did need? And my dad would just look at me and say, well, we would just have to figure something else out. And I knew then, just like I know now, that that was the wrong answer. And the right answer should have been having systems in place that help save lives and help support families and help really understand that there are real lives that are hanging in the balance of the decisions we make, the systems we create, and that's got to be at the forefront of the next leader's mind for this district is healthcare, economic opportunity, and also education. We're seeing our president shut down opportunities and access to education rather than expand them. And so for a district like this, where you've had such legendary, powerful voices advocating on its behalf, to go from that to now being silenced. You know, Glenda, if you count the time from when Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee got sick and passed, and Congressman Turner passing away, and then our governor making the decision to play games with this special election, when I say games, delaying it, and then of course the fact that we're likely going to have a runoff, we're talking about a period of 18 months where the people, the 800,000 people who have lived in this district, have had no voice, they've had no vote, they've had no federal advocate for funding for that period of time. And then the redistricting to happen in the middle of all of that is just adding insult to injury. So it's time that we get this seat filled, but make sure that we fill it in the right way, one in which we're really passing a torch forward. And this next leg of the journey is one that honors the past, but really helps us to seize our full potential, because that's what it's all about. That's what leadership is.
And so you would be hitting the ground running when the voters vote you in to fulfill the rest of the term for that seat. That being said, you would be coming to Washington during some of the most politically toxic, certainly the most politically toxic and racially divisive time in our generation.
Correct.
And it is something to say about you running into your leadership, wanting to come to Washington, bringing your experience to a body that is divided, dysfunctional. Share a little bit about what are the top issues you're hearing from the voters, that you'll be carrying that voice that has had a void to Washington.
Well, I think first and foremost, you know, people are feeling a strong sense, in addition to not having their voting member in place, there is an overwhelming sense of anxiety. People feel overwhelmed, disengaged even. And so you see people, when I knock doors and I talk to residents, the first thing they say to me is, well, what can we do? They want a plan. They want leadership. They want to hear how we can improve and get out of this mess, because mess is the best way to describe the toxic environment in which we now live. And we've got to put leaders in place that are going to have clarity of purpose and mission, and find ways to re-engage the public who has in many ways disengaged. I know so many people who were just deeply disappointed by how the presidential election turned out, and decided then to say, hey, I got to take a step back, but we need you to step back in, because Trump's agenda depends on you staying disengaged. And so we have got to elevate those voices again, get them re-engaged, but you've got to do that by showing people, where are we heading? And so when it comes to me talking about those meat and potatoes issues, healthcare access, education, economic opportunities, be specific. In what ways will my life change as a result of what you're talking about? We've got to re-engage people so that they know it will make a difference. For us in the 18th Congressional District, we have seen, you know, something called, and this has happened nationally, in this period of time, this 18-month period of time where the seat has been vacant, we have seen the big, beautiful bill get passed. Of course, as you know, it cut $900 billion in Medicaid spending. It cut $300 billion from SNAP. It told people who were seeking graduate student education that their loans would have to be capped, and so much more to reduce healthcare access and other things. So when that passed, do you know it passed by a margin of 1 vote? Had I been in the seat on time, I could have been the vote to block it. And so we've got a lot that's riding on the seat, and in this moment, people want to know how I'm going to afford to live in the America of today. We know Trump campaigned time and time again on the economy, and as soon as he got in there, he said, I can't do anything about that, and he started, you know, levying tariffs to destabilize it further. Groceries, the price of groceries aren't going down, they're going in the opposite direction. It's becoming more unaffordable. Unemployment is going up. We are seeing our economy get destroyed right before our eyes. People want that stabilized, and they want to seize opportunity that they should be seizing had this not been occurring. So that's one. 2, healthcare. Again, we're going back in time. we had under the Biden administration the first time that we've really gotten a handle for our senior citizens, that is, on prescription drug costs. They finally instituted a cap. And now, of course, the Trump administration is seeking to reverse that cap. Why would we go back to an era in which we have seniors in the United States of America literally having to make a choice as to whether they're going to pay rent or take their prescription drugs? Or in many cases, seniors I've talked to, they ration their drugs. Take the prescription in the morning, take something over the counter in the evening. You know, these are things that really impede someone's ability to thrive and live, for that matter. And we can't go back to that. So healthcare, as it relates to accessing the Affordable Care Act, improving on it, and as opposed to making it more difficult to access, these are things that we need to be doing right away. Also, again, the dismantling of the Department of Education, that's going to have dire effects for the next generation. It's already enough that we're playing politics with people's lives, and then to do that with our future as well is just unconscionable. We have to start putting resources back into our public schools, and with the dismantling of the Department of Education, you're taking resources away from some of the most vulnerable residents that are vulnerable students, those with special needs and others that need those resources. So that is something that we need to fight back against, and what I've been hearing from residents.
Yeah, and in addition to the intersection of creating economically thriving, educated, and healthy, safe communities, right? Our voters are intersectional in the way they think about sending representatives that can carry the complexity of our lives. Texas was one of the first states that really in this administration started rolling back our voting rights by dismantling and gerrymandering districts and redistricting from the state legislative level. Can you share a little bit? People have been following, but really you are a Harvard educated lawyer who has been a champion on voting rights, and particularly when you look at the historic 18th Congressional District and the work that we've done around the Voting Rights Act. Share a little bit about redistricting and kind of what it means and why having someone like you, your background is an important voice as you fight on the federal level to protect our voting rights.
Thank you for raising that question, Glenda. The 18th Congressional District really is ground zero for this redistricting fight that we have happening across America. When the Department of Justice wrote a letter to the state of Texas, it said that the 18th, the 9th, the 29th, and the 33rd, all within Texas, were racially gerrymandered, and therefore it necessitated us having this mid-decade redistricting. Despite the fact that we just had one based off of the census, they required us to do that. And so, or not required, the state decided to do that. And so our governor and the president manufactured this plan to basically dilute the voting strength of Black and brown voters in Texas. And so they went in, took those maps, chopped them, diced them, and in our case, you know, we were on the chopping block and had no voting member. And so I went up and down to Austin several times to testify. Interestingly enough, out of the 4 opportunities the public had to testify on these maps, there was only one hearing in which the maps were actually made available. So there was no intention to have true buy-in, true engagement, true public discourse on how to best move forward with the maps. The goal was to pass the maps as they were presented, and that's how they pushed this through. They rammed it through. As you know, there was a quorum break to slow that process down, but eventually did pass it. It is now in litigation. NAACP has sued. In addition, LULAC has sued. We're hopeful that there could be some mandate from the court to say, hey guys, these newly drawn maps are racially gerrymandered, and therefore you need to have a temporary set of maps and times for this midterm election. Did Donald Trump intend for them to pick up 5 additional Republican seats? Absolutely he did. Did he also intend for us to dilute the voting strength of Black and brown voters? Absolutely he did. And both of those things can be true and are true. And as a result of that, we've got a good footing to stand on in court. So we're hopeful. It's a 50-50 shot. We don't know what the court will say, but it's possible that we could get these maps that were recently drawn redrawn. And that's the hope at this point. But at this time, it's now in the courts, and it's also now all over the nation, because he did pick up these 5 additional seats from a political perspective. Now we've got to see states like California and others go through their processes to see what can be done to counteract what has been done in Texas. This happened in Texas in terms of redistricting. There are other battles that happens in Texas. So goes Texas, so goes the rest of the nation when it came to taking away women's reproductive health rights, when it comes to issues like voting rights, when it comes to a number of critical issues that really just undergird our democracy. And they'll use Texas as a testing ground and see if they can get it passed here, and then emulate that and dismantle other things in the rest of the country. So I'm hopeful that we can see other states counterbalance that. I'm hopeful that the courts can intervene here in a way that helps to support democracy rather than to destroy it, as our president and my governor are seeking to do.
Thank you again to Amanda Edwards. Thank you for running, Amanda. Check in the chat how you can get involved in her race. And just a reminder, this is literally the first election out the gate. It is January 31st. So next up, excited about this conversation. We're staying in Texas. It's still about legacy, leadership, and what is next, and what is going to take us to what's going to lead us to the next moment. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett is running for U.S. Senate in Texas. She made an announcement on December 8th and has been out of the gate running and organizing. She has built her career, one with clarity, with purpose, protecting the civil liberties and dignity of people who are too often pushed to the margins. She's been a public defender to being a civil rights and criminal defense attorney. From state rep to the United States House of Representatives, she has dedicated her life to public service and has been fighting and using her voice around justice and equity for all. She was elected to Congress in January of 2023. Since January 23, she has represented Texas 30th Congressional District, in the legacy of the late Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson. She is joining a conversation this evening with Higher Heights for America's Vice President of Programs, Ebony Taylor, and is going to share about her aspirations and her pathway to the United States Senate. So Ebony, take us away to this next conversation.
Hi, Congresswoman Crockett. How are you doing today?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well, thank you. And thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your time. We know you are super duper busy. And so we just thank you for these moments that you're able to share with us. First and foremost, I want to say congratulations on your Senate run, and just jump right in. So what inspired your decision to seek this seat, and why do you believe this moment calls for your leadership?
Yeah, so the refrain that continues to ring in my head is the fierce urgency of now. And, you know, as I traveled various parts of the state this weekend, I talked about the fact that it's only in times like this that we see what real leadership is made of. And so I've explained to people that I feel confident that I would have been able to figure out a way to get back to the United States House if that is what I decided to do. But this moment calls for more. If you say that you are doing this work because you want to effectuate change, every single problem that I feel like we have is somehow tied specifically to the Senate, whether it's the redistricting scheme that is going on. It was the Senate that failed to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act because the House passed it. If we look at the Freedom to Vote Act, which would have prevented Elon Musk from buying the election, it passed the House, but then the Senate failed to pass it. If we look at the Supreme Court that has decided to grant immunity to this particular president. It was this Supreme Court, which they could only get onto the Supreme Court because of the Senate. So everything that I feel like we are losing is a result somehow of inaction that has taken place in the Senate. If I was living in a state where we had a blue senator, I would not be running. But right now, we need to change the math if we are going to save our democracy that is hanging by a thread. And so when I looked at it, I was the best positioned Democrat to be able to take on this task. And so I'm ready for it. And yeah, we're going to win this thing.
Absolutely. Thank you. And if elected, you would be the first Black woman to serve as Senator of Texas, as U.S. Senator of Texas. What does this historic moment mean to you and the state? And if I could also add this piece, you've said Texas is tough. That's a line that you've been repeating quite a bit. Can you just kind of, in your answer, unpack that too?
Yeah, so listen, there is history that would be made, but I do want to be clear that I am running just because I'm uniquely situated to save our democracy. And I think that it is only fitting that a state that actually has so much positive history would be in a position to do it again. Most people don't realize that Roe v. Wade came out of the state of Texas.
Yes.
When you think of something like the Voting Rights Act that we were just talking about, or the Civil Rights Act, they were both signed into law because a Texan that served as president, LBJ, signed them into law. And so honestly, it is somewhat serendipitous that it would be this way, because this is the state that actually was looking out and protecting women throughout this country. This is also the state that was leading the way as relates to civil rights and voting rights. And then to have a civil rights lawyer that's a woman,
Yeah.
A Black woman, be the one that steps in this moment, I think it actually only makes sense. I think that also one of the things that I never thought about when I ran for office was how many young eyes would be on me.
Yes.
I always knew that my constituents and those voters that always show up, our seniors, I knew that they would be paying attention. But never in my wildest dreams that I would believe that we would have little girls of all colors looking and loving on me. I had, I do this thing now where I do these Crockett confessionals from the campaign trail.
Yeah.
And I didn't really sleep this weekend, and that's okay. But I've got some stories that I actually want to I want to tell, and they involve little girls. And so it still kind of shocks me when someone who's not even able to vote knows who I am,
Yeah.
and loves me and tells me that I'm their hero. I want them to know that there's nothing that they can't do. And so as we continue to break down barriers, and I think that for some, they say, oh, because it's not happened, it can't happen. But if every Black woman had that attitude, we would never have a Black woman vice president. We never would have had Shirley Chisholm and had any Black women swear into the U.S. House. And I am only the 55th Black woman to ever swear into the U.S. House. But it was easier for me because there was somebody that came before me. And it's the same way when it comes to the Senate. Now, there's nothing easy about it, but I can tell you that my obstacles don't look like they would have looked like, because right now we don't have just one Black woman serving in the Senate. We have two. And so it's easier for people to see it and believe in it if it's already taken place. So it's not only that it had already taken place with two other Black women that were elected and one that was appointed, and now we have two that are currently serving. People aren't so like, oh my gosh, a Black woman can't do it,
Yeah.
right? And so I do thank those warriors that have come before me that had the audacity to believe that they could do it, so that by the time there was a Jasmine Crockett candidacy for the U.S. Senate, others could point and say, well, there's other Black women that have done it. Why can't she?
Yeah, that gives me chills. I mean, and of course, Higher Heights helped to get those two Black women who are currently serving concurrently in the U.S. Senate into office. So we're really proud of that. But it just always, I never get tired of hearing that. So somewhat in the same vein, how do you see Black women shaping democracy and leadership at this moment?
Yeah, so, everyone always talks about how Black women specifically are the backbone of the Democratic Party. That is what they always say. And so I think that there's always been a little bit of resistance to take us from just kind of doing the work to actually believing that we could lead.
Yeah.
We are continuing to break down barriers. We have the first Black woman nominee from a major party in the presidential, in a Kamala Harris. And so I say that the more that we show up, the more that people understand why it is that we've been so effective at being the backbone of this party. But I do think that it is time for our party to be unified in some ways. Right now, the fight should not be from within. We have consistently allowed ourselves to be divided and to be distracted. Right now, I can tell you, regardless as to whether or not you agree wholly with any Democrat that is on the ballot for some race, that Democrat is going to do a lot more for you than that Republican. You know, right now, we don't know what's happening with our democracy. Right now, we know that we should not feel super secure in this country because we have people that are incompetent, that are running our armed forces, and we also have the unlawful, unconstitutional wars that have been declared. It's hard for me to say that it's a war declaration because that comes from us in the Congress, and that's not taking place. And so, you know, we have people that are being disappeared on our streets. We have state-sanctioned killings, something that the Black community has been having issues with for a very long time in this country. And so, you know, I look at it and I say, is race going to be the thing that keeps you from making sure that your child has a better future? Is gender going to be the thing that keeps you from having the ability to actually keep a roof over your head? And so, you know, what I really want to encourage those on my side of the aisle to do is to be unified. You know, I consistently said this weekend that divided we fall, united we stand, and that is true.
Yeah.
And they know that, and they have played on us on that, and we are all losing. And so I think that if we can stay unified, we'll get all things done across the country. And thus far, I've been really impressed with the numbers that I've seen in a number of these elections that have taken place since this administration has been sworn in.
Yeah, and also just continuing on with that thought, right? You mentioned some of the super dismal things that are happening right now in our country. What is your message to voters who may be disillusioned or disengaged right now, especially Black women? As you mentioned, we've carried democracy time and time again. So as we look at this landscape, as we look at what's happening, how do you plan to speak to those people?
Yeah, so I don't think that you can just kind of wake up, have a campaign, and start speaking to those people.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen it happen. I would argue that Mondami did that quite effectively. You know, early polling showed him down, but he was not deterred. He knew that he could offer something different, and so he went straight to the people. That is how we have always run our campaigns. From my very first campaign through even obviously my most recent campaign. And so what I'll say is that we are going to meet people where they are. A lot of times there's there's the political elites and then there's the rest of us. But the reality is that there are a lot of people that say, I don't do politics, and as my good soror Tony Rose says all the time, but politics will do you.
Yes.
And so I think it is important that we communicate to people and really start to engage them by just asking, how are you doing? We've got to start reconnected on a very granular level. How are you doing? And when people start to talk to you and tell you that childcare is unaffordable, food is unaffordable, housing is unaffordable, can't find a job, as they start to go through the list of things that are going wrong, then you connect the dots for them. You say, you know what? I feel you. Like, are you a voter? I would encourage you to look at this candidate or that candidate. I think that that's something that we have to do. I think I'm a unique candidate in a lot of ways. A lot of times we see these campaigns take place no matter what level we're talking about. And usually if there's any integration of culture, it kind of comes at the end and it's kind of just thrown in there. It's not necessarily a natural fit per se. I think that I've consistently been a cultural kind of crossover. It was nothing for you to see me on the Shade Room. Nothing for me to be on Jason Lee's show, nothing for you to see me on The Breakfast Club, while also being able to see me on The View or Kimmel or Colbert, right? So I've kind of been this person that's been in all these different spaces that aren't necessarily the traditional spaces, while also occupying the MS Nows and the CNNs of the world as well. And so due to a number of the friendships and relationships that I've been able to kind of build within Hollywood and elsewhere, we are going to continue to kind of blend the two, because it matters that I communicate with people that aren't necessarily zoned in on the political news.
Exactly.
And I think that that's how we're going to be able to reach them. And then we're just going to go directly to them. So here it is this weekend. I'll be on stage with Tyrese at his concert that's going to take place actually in my current congressional district. I hit him up. I was like, hey, you know, just give your girl a shout out, put a video up, do something, because I need the people to know. And he's like, no, you got to get on stage.
Come on stage.
Yeah, he's like, you got to be there. We going live. I'm telling everybody to take out their phones. We're going to surprise them, you know, all these things or whatever. But you're going to see that I went and we had our state championship games for our high school football teams. And 3 of the teams in the largest 3 divisions, they all came from my district.
Yeah.
So I was on the field. So
Yeah,
I was on the Jumbotron. We had 200,000 people that showed up for our high school football game. So I think it's about, and I didn't look awkward, right? Like I looked like I knew how to be at a football game, right? So I think that there is that. And then at the same time, I can walk into Black church and do that as well as a PK. But, you know, I think most of us can walk into Black church and understand that.
Yeah.
And so I think being able to communicate with all communities, including those that are in rural Texas, because as soon as I graduated law school, I went off to East Texas. That's actually where I got started in politics. And my first term in the House, it was Secretary Fudge that told me that I need to go ahead and go to the Ag Committee. Now, I try not to ask her many questions when she tells me to do things, but I didn't really kind of see the link. But, you know, she told me to do it. I did it. I learned so much. But I also started building relationships with those Texas farmers and ranchers. And so these are people that are like, we actually know how she is. We actually know how she thinks.
Yeah.
We actually aren't like thrown off by her, in addition to the fact that I've tried cases in both rural Texas and urban Texas, as well as rural and urban Arkansas. So I understand how to communicate with people from all walks of life and truly meet them where they are.
And that really is a very, very beautiful thing, very unique thing. I want to go back to Tyrese. I want to see a duet happen, Congress.
You know, my team
I gotta see it on my feed.
was wondering. My team is asked, and I'm like, I don't know that I'm gonna actually be singing like that. But I went to, so we did 6, 7. I don't know how many churches I did on Sunday in San Antonio, and so actually one of them I did sing in. So they were like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, you know, every once in a while, I break out in song."
Hey,
so,
listen, it's necessary. Well, I know we're close to time, Congresswoman, but I would love to just hear just 2 quick things, like your top 2, like lightning round, like your top 2 things that are just the most pressing things that you're hearing from Texans right now. And then I want to end on a fun note with what your hype song is. So if you can just lightning round on those things, then we'll close out here.
Yeah. So affordability, number 1, kind of across the board. Healthcare kind of ties into that. So I'll say affordability / healthcare, as well as I would say immigration / our foreign affairs / trade is kind of what I would say. Hype song, it just kind of depends. Motivation is one of them. Haters get on your job. I use that one a lot. So when the haters are coming, I'm like, yeah, haters get on your job. Motivation, right?
Yeah.
Your hate is fuel to my fire. So yes, that is one that I put on quite often. Yeah.
Nice. Well, thank you so much, Congresswoman Crockett. Really appreciate your time, like I said at the top of this conversation. And I know, you know, we'll be hearing much more from you as the days progress, and looking forward to seeing you and Tyrese do a duet on my feed. So, thank you.
Thank you so much, Higher Heights. I love and appreciate you. Let's go out, let's make history yet once again in this country, and let's save this country from the trajectory that it is on.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ebony, and to Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett for joining us tonight for that conversation. Check out in the chat how you can support her U.S. Senate race. Now we're joined by a woman who has spent her career breaking barriers, serving with purpose, and leading with courage and conviction. Keisha Lance Bottoms is running for governor of Georgia. She's a fifth-generation Georgian, a mother, a wife, a public servant, who has led through some of the most defining moments in recent history, from serving as Keisha, the mayor of Atlanta, to advising President Joe Biden in the White House. She has shown steadfast leadership under pressure. Now she's stepping forward once again as a Higher Heights for America endorsed candidate for governor of Georgia, committing to deliver real results for working families across the state. Her vision is to center expanding Medicare, Medicaid, keeping communities safe, investing in education, and ensuring every Georgian has the opportunity not only to survive, but in fact, thrive. Let's take a look at her plans for Georgia. We're so honored to have you here today at Sunday Brunch. You have worn so many hats: judge, city council member, mayor of Atlanta, White House senior advisor, and now candidate for governor. What inspired you to step back at this moment into the political arena?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Glenda. It's always great to see you. You know, for me, it was waking up the day after the November election, the last presidential election, and like so many people, just being so disappointed with where how things turned out, and just anticipating all that we would experience with this new administration. And so I find myself praying about what I would be called to do in this season. You know, what would that election mean for me personally, for my family, my community, for my state, for our nation? And unfortunately, all the awful things that I thought would likely happen, we are seeing so much of it come to pass. And after a lot of prayer and thoughtful consideration, I made the decision to get back into the ring. I view the political season as sort of a tag team. I give the example of watching wrestling. We used to call it wrestling when I was a kid, and you would see the tag teams. And one person would go into the ring, wrestlers number one and number two. One would go in, then one would tag out and take a break, and another person would tag back in. And for me, it's about tagging back in this season and leading in the way that I know how to do best. I was mayor of Atlanta for 3 years under the first Trump administration. So I know what it means to have strong leadership, and I know how necessary it is during times like this.
We are living in some of the most politically toxic and racially divisive times of our generation, with the current administration's attacks on our rights, from concerns about the economy to voting access. How do you plan to navigate the climate and protect Georgians' freedom while keeping people hopeful and engaged?
Yeah, and we see the Voting Rights Act being dismantled before our eyes. So I remember during the time that I served as mayor of Atlanta under the first Trump administration, saying to our team, God bless the child who's got his own. So I mean, it means that we're going to have to be thoughtful about what our Project 2026 looks like. What are the things that we will be able to do at the state level to counter so many of the things that are happening at the federal level, making sure that we are looking out on behalf of our communities, that we're being thoughtful, that we aren't just being emotional, but that we are planning, that we too are playing the long game. And for whether it's stepping in with funding for our community health centers, or helping to make sure that our teachers have what they need, that our students have what they need, that people in our state who need access to health care have what they need, that small businesses are shored up. When you are in a state that has nearly a $15 billion budget, that gives you a lot of leeway, and it's going to mean that we're going to have to be thoughtful And we're going to have to work together with our partners to make sure that we're able to stand in the gap during these very, very challenging times. And it may also mean that we have to fight it out in the courts. Right now, the current attorney general in the state of Georgia is refusing to sue and join other attorneys general across the nation, refusing to sue the Trump administration on a lot of these policies. Well, when God willing, I'm elected as governor, I guarantee you that Georgia will be joining in on those lawsuits that are pushing back against all of the things that the Trump administration is trying to do that we know aren't best for our people and in so many ways are illegal.
God Bless the Child is actually one of my favorite songs. It's one of the first songs I learned how to play as a jazz flautist. And really talks about the moment about us ensuring that we are building a democracy for our children and our grandchildren. Georgian voters are faced with a lot of challenges right now, from rising cost of healthcare, gaps to public safety concerns. As you are traveling across the state, what are you hearing from voters and constituents about what the top issues that are facing their families and Georgians across the country, and how will you tackle it as governor?
Yeah, Glenda, you're absolutely right. And there's a reason Marjorie Taylor Greene is even pushing back against the Trump administration on things like healthcare, because that's an issue. Access to healthcare is an issue that transcends political parties. So as I'm traveling around the state, I am hearing the same things over and over. People are concerned about their economic stability. They are concerned about access to health care. Georgia is one of 9 states that's not expanded Medicaid. So we have 300,000 people, even before the big ugly bill, who don't have access to health care. 49% of the employees in the state are employed by small businesses. They are being hit directly by tariffs. Our school systems throughout the state, in many places, they are the largest employers in the state, but we are experiencing teacher shortages. That's why I'm proposing no income taxes, state income taxes for our teachers. I think that our community colleges and our technical schools should be free to all students. So these are issues that transcend community, they transcend political affiliation. I saw it when I served in the White House, as we invited people into the White House from across the country. These are quality of life issues that people want to see their leaders do better in creating policies to make sure that their families are able to thrive.
So all eyes continue to be on Georgia for the balance of the Senate, to which way Georgia will go in next year's election. It is one of the centers of gravity for national politics. What do you see the role of Black women as voters, organizers, and leaders? How are Black women shaping the outcome of this election and in future elections and the future of Georgia?
Black women are the face of so many opportunities and challenges in our communities. We are leading, whether or not it's from the PTA to our sororities, to our churches, to our jobs, in our homes. And the issues that we care about are the issues that our leadership care about across the state. As a voting bloc, we are a huge part, especially of the Democratic voters in this state. And people of color in this state represent a huge part of the Democratic Party. And we are seeing a trend that we saw was able to turn the state blue in 2020. We didn't have that same success the last presidential election or even the last governor's race, but we know that it's possible because it's been done. I work with a group called Battleground Georgia in 2020. We targeted 100,000 African American voters who did not turn out in November to get them to turn out in the runoff. We were able to get 76,000 of those voters to turn out. So it matters. It matters how Black women vote. It matters how communities of color vote. And it matters how people who care about this democracy and care about the future of our state vote. So we're talking to everybody. We're listening to everyone. But what I know is that the voice of African American women really is unmatched in the Democratic Party. And if we don't stand up, take our seat at the table, hold on to what we know to be true in terms of what our communities want and what our communities need, then as a party and as a state, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. So I know, there's a hashtag resting. It's okay to rest, but then we still got to get up and vote.
Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms, Higher Heights endorsed your candidacy because you're consistently showing what it means to be hashtag Black Woman Lead. What message do you have to women watching today who are doing the work in their communities, sometimes quietly, but powerfully, at a moment where we feel fatigued? What is the message around hope? What is the message around what should we be doing individually and collectively to continue to move forward?
Yeah, I would just say it's okay to get fatigued. It's okay to get tired. It's okay to rest. But then there's also a time for action. And I would just say to Black women across this country, just don't grow weary in well doing. Our voices are needed. We represent our families, we represent our communities, and we still matter in this process. And if it means that you have to take a step back during this season, maybe you're not leading in the same way that you used to lead, then that's okay. That means it's time for others of us to step up and step in. But the absolute worst thing that we can do is to give up and believe that we don't matter.
Thank you, Keisha Lance Bottoms, for joining us. That was a conversation that I had during a previous Sunday brunch. She is always down for a good conversation with Sunday brunch. And so check in the chat how you can support her for her run for governor. That primary is in May of 2026. Um, So on November 3rd, 1992, Carol Moseley Braun was part of the first wave of women to the U.S. Senate. She made history as the first Black woman to be elected to the United States Senate and the first woman from the state of Illinois to serve in the U.S. Senate. Then we sent someone named Barack Obama from Illinois to the U.S. Senate. Illinois has a history of sending Black representatives to represent their state in the United States Senate. And in 2026, Illinois voters will have an opportunity to once again make history by sending their second Black woman to the U.S. Senate. Higher Heights is proud to name the Illinois U.S. Senate contest as one of our 2026 races to watch because there are two Black women running and stepping up to lead in this moment. Our races to watch uplift these candidacies for voters, but more importantly for members and others across the country to know about this race, to know about these women. This primary is coming up very fast in March. And so we are sharing with you two conversations. I had an opportunity to sit down with both of them for a powerful example of how Black women are looking to run for higher office. This contest reflects how deep our political bench has become and the strength of our collective leadership, reminding us and reminding the nation that when Black women lead, we move forward. So tonight, sit back for two conversations with two dynamic leaders who are running to fill the seat currently held by Senator Dick Durbin, who is retiring. That primary is on March 17th. First up, Congresswoman Robin Kelly. She represents the second congressional district in Illinois, and she's been doing that since 2013. She serves on the House Energy and Commerce Committee, where she is focusing on healthcare access, technology, accountability, innovation, and economic development. She also serves on the House Democratic Steering and Policy Committee, helping to guide the caucus's priorities. She is going to be a conversation about deep policy. She comes from a long history of serving in the state house. She served as the chief administrative officer of Cook County. Has been the chief of staff of the Illinois State Treasurer's office. And now she's looking to bring her leadership to higher heights. So take a look at my conversation with Robin Kelly, where I went to Washington to sit down with her. So Congresswoman Robin Kelly, you've decided to go higher. You are a woman who has run, won, and governed on the state level, run, won, governed in the House of Representatives. And as we enter into the midterms, the 2026 election cycle, you are running for U.S. Senate. So tell us a little bit about why now, and why the U.S. Senate?
I thought about it before. I wanted to do it before, and then decided after really studying the landscape that I wouldn't do it. I would stay in the House. But now I know that I am very ready, very prepared, have done the work, have the relationships in the House and the Senate, that I know I can hit the ground running when I get to the Senate. And this president will still be the president. This administration will still be the administration. And I really believe that we need someone who has done the work, that knows the work, that has the relationships, that has a list of accomplishments, that can, again, hit the ground running and get stuff done. I'll use that word and get things done. But it's always been on my mind for a while, but I didn't think I was going to have the opportunity, quite frankly.
And you've spoke to that just now, but you in particular have said we can't afford someone unprepared in the Senate right now. What does that mean when you translate about day one? What does that look like for you?
Well, day one, I know that I can, I have to see what committees I'm going to be on, but I also know that I have legislation in the House that I haven't been able to get passed, and I can bring that legislation to the Senate, already prepared, ready to be filed, and I know there are people in the House that would help me carry it in the House, if it's the right setup, as far as Democrat, Republican, and those kind of things. And I think, I'm more prepared as far as, what committees and things like that. I know a seniority, not that I can walk in and say, hey, I want that, but I have that. I have relationships, or a lot of relationships, as a matter of fact, especially since so many of my colleagues in the House, went to the Senate, and people helping me, right now, people I've worked with around healthcare, around gun violence prevention, things that, have meant the world to me around workforce development.
Yeah, you shared a little bit about some of the issues that you've led on in a recent conversation we had with you: gun violence prevention, healthcare access, small business support. What would be your top priorities? Now, I will do this if you set aside the politics of the moment. If you were able to spend your first 100 days in the Senate, what do you think are the issues you've heard from the constituents of Illinois? Right, you have been crisscrossing that state in recent months. What would be kind of your top three priorities for that first 100 days?
Well, I mean, I know about the politics of today, but affordability is still, a big question. But definitely, I've done so much work around healthcare. Healthcare would be, one of my big pushes. In the richest country in the history of the world, too many people still are broken by our healthcare system. There's no reason why everyone should not have healthcare. And when I say that, I mean quality, affordable, and accessible. Because my district, urban, suburban, and rural, I have people that live in healthcare deserts, that live in maternal care deserts. One of my farmers, his wife was having a baby. He had to drive 60 miles to the hospital, and they said, hey, she's not ready. He drove 60 miles back. He went into the field. 30 minutes later, she was ready. He drove 60 miles back. He said he drove 100 miles an hour, to get her there. And just so we need to make sure it's affordable, and accessible, and of course, quality health care, because that's something I would still push. If you don't have your health, you don't have a lot of things. So that would be something. When I travel Illinois, people don't always talk about crime per se, but gun violence prevention, which I do consider a public health issue, would still be one of the things that I push for. But also, wow, three things is hard because housing is an issue, economic opportunity is an issue, child care. People are paying more in child care sometimes than they're paying in rent. So just, those things. And then the other thing is, I would say, just the corruption in government. I would be interested in closing as many loopholes as we can that I feel like this administration, took advantage of, that maybe we never thought, Democrat or Republican, that he's making money, off of his presidency, that he's breaking laws and just different things like that. Like when I run for office, there's things I have to fill out and do, and he's the president. It seems like he should have to do, like, do we know his taxes yet? His economic statement, those things. There's things we definitely need to codify and to cut back on what has been really a corrupt administration.
Now, share a little bit about, I know you are looking to build and have been building a cross-section, intersectional, multicultural coalition to support your campaign, not only in Illinois, but across this country. You spend a lot of time talking about you being someone that is a coalition builder, that you have great relationships, which is important when you're in a legislative body. So share a little bit about your campaign and how you are bringing women and communities of color, rural, suburban, and urban together in support of you.
Sure. Well, I feel like when you do your job, that is a form of campaigning also, because I will tell you, there are Republicans in my district that are telling people to pull a Democratic slip, because once you're in my district, whether you voted for me or not, I feel like my job is to lift all boats, because I feel like we all do better when we all do better. That if you're doing well, it's okay with you if I'm doing well, and that kind of thing. So I'm building on, what my district already is, from low income working class families to some wealthy. My district is black, white, and some are growing Latino population. So I'm building on, those constituencies, that I already have. And again, work a lot in the healthcare arena. So working, with those groups of people, but just with progressives, I feel like, I hate to say the prominent candidates, but that's how people put it. But I know I'm the most progressive person in the race. I'm a pragmatic progressive. I want to get things done, but so working, with the progressives in the race. But also, it's funny because people will say, are you in the progressive caucus? No, you're in the New Dem caucus. But it's just somehow I can walk that fine line, I guess, I have a really good voting record with unions, and so we'll see, how they come out. But, I have walked on picket lines, demonstrated, worked on legislation. So just really people that I've dealt with, which is a lot of different people. Like I said, farmers, unions, teachers, social workers, wealthy people, working families, just trying to, go back to people that, frankly, I've worked with a lot already, and they've seen my work, and they know that I'm, as I say, I'm a workhorse, not a show horse. So going back to those people and saying, can you help me out? And even passing petitions in Illinois, I had 187 different people pass my petitions through the whole state. And the other thing is, I came to Illinois from New York, and I moved to Central Illinois. So there's a feeling that I have that understanding that everybody's not from Chicago, even though I know the votes are, from up there, but they know that I see them and I hear them also. And as party chair, I traveled the state. I didn't leave a stone unturned, and I stayed in touch with, those folks also. So people know my record. I just need to, keep getting my story out.
Yeah. And what's exciting about this U.S. Senate race in particular is Illinois continues to make history, right? Sent the first black woman to the U.S. Senate. Someone was like, who's this person named Barack Obama in the U.S. Senate who became the first black president? And you're entering into a season where we're talking about multiple black women serving in the U.S. Senate at the same time, right? And it's not just going, we were like, we just want one. Now we have two, and you're looking at a cycle where it could be one or two more.
Right.
So share a little bit about just like the historic nature of how Illinois, is one of the center points of black leadership in the U.S. Senate. And for the final note, what does that mean, and what do you need from supporters or those who are learning a little more about this race? What do you need to be able to move forward to make the history to be able to then continue to do the policy?
Well, first of all, I don't have to tell you, representation matters. And no, it's not good enough that there's one black female or two black females, or, we tease the Senate, Senator Booker and Warnock, now you guys have your own little caucus. But no, we need more. CBC is not monolithic. We represent all over and, have different views. There's some things, of course, we're 10 toes down on altogether, but we represent different districts. And when I think about the two women that are there now, they're both East Coast generals, and even though Lisa Blunt Rochester and I used to talk about being urban, suburban, and rural, but it would be great to have a Midwest voice, and talk about what's going on in the Midwest. And Illinois is an oasis in so many ways when you think about who we're surrounded by, when it comes to reproductive freedom and rights, when it comes to gun safety, just so many things, LGBTQ, we're on the forefront.
Thank you so much to Robin Kelly for her leadership. If you haven't been following it, she introduced articles of impeachment this week to impeach the Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. So thank you for using your voice, using your power in this critical moment. Next up, the Lieutenant Governor of Illinois is also running for this U.S. Senate seat. Her name is Juliana Stratton, who currently serves as the 48th Lieutenant Governor, where she plays a central role in advancing justice, equity, and access across the state. Before becoming Lieutenant Governor, Juliana Stratton served in the Illinois House of Representatives, representing the 5th District, where she built a record rooted in advocacy, collaboration, and results. Let's take a look at an earlier conversation I had with Juliana, where she also was in Washington, and we had an opportunity to talk about her leadership, her legacy, her vision, and her candidacy. So Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton, you've decided you want to head to Washington. What about this moment did you believe your leadership was uniquely prepared to come to Washington at a time that is one of the most politically toxic and racially divisive time in our country?
Well, I think about the work that I've done my entire career. I'm a lawyer, but for 2 decades, I had an alternative dispute resolution firm. So I did mediation, arbitration, I did training nationally on constructive conflict, and I taught negotiation skills for a university in Chicago. So my work for so much of my career has been all about bringing people in conflict to the table together, listening, trying to understand their underlying needs and interests, and hopefully helping them to resolve substantive issues and maybe even preserve the relationship. And I say all of that because I think those skills as a mediator, being a problem solver who can bring people together, is sorely needed right now. I hear all over the state that people are, first of all, looking for a fighter, someone who will stand up and fight and be bold in the way that they lead. And I know that I have done that. I've done that as a state rep. I've done that as a lieutenant governor. I've done that as just a community leader. But it's not just what we're fighting against, it's also what we're fighting for. And for what we're fighting for, we need a unifying voice. I mean, we are watching our country really, which has been led into a 5-alarm fire that has been ignited by Donald Trump and congressional Republicans, people who are really just focused on, their own personal gain and doing so at the sacrifice of so many American families. And so I think no matter who you are, you would want steady leadership. You would want someone who's really centering the needs of Americans all across our country, and certainly for me in the state of Illinois. And we need somebody who's going to provide steady leadership. I often laugh because, I remember when we took office at the state level, when Governor Pritzker and I came into office, we had gone for almost 2 years without a budget in Illinois. We had a Republican governor who, did everything he could, quite frankly, to bankrupt our state. And every social safety net was being shredded. Our institutions of higher learning weren't sure if they were going to keep their doors open. It was chaotic. And once again, we're seeing chaos. So I think what people are really yearning for is steady leadership that understands that government can be a force for good, and that my role as a senator will be to not just pass legislation. It will not just be to have a voice of moral clarity, but it will also be to push our party to be as courageous as possible in this moment, because look at what's under attack right now. And so that's the kind of leadership I look forward to bringing.
And based on you've been crisscrossing the state, if elected, what do you think are the key issues that you'll be centering in as a freshman in the U.S. Senate?
And I know that as a freshman has meaning. When I went to the Illinois House back in 2017, they told me, you're new, so you just kind of come in and kind of sit in the back. We don't want to hear too much from you. But I will tell you that that wasn't in me. And I got in there and I rolled up my sleeves and I got right to work and I passed 10 bills. And I think because I got to work doing that, that's why then just J.B. Pritzker recognized me as someone that he thought he would want to ask to be his partner in governance. Look, I think that there's three buckets that I put it in. Life being more affordable. So what did we do in Illinois? Because I see Illinois as a blueprint. The minimum wage in Illinois was $8.25. We've raised it to $15 an hour, lifting so many people out of poverty. We have to address health care. I want to see universal health care coverage. I just don't think that people, I believe health care is a right and not a privilege, and I don't believe that people should have to choose of whether they can get health care coverage or they can pay some other bill. I don't believe that. And we've done so much in Illinois to lower the cost of prescription drugs, to make sure that we make health care more affordable. So making life more affordable is important. Secondly, people want to see access to economic opportunities. And we're seeing the Department of Education, for example, being dismantled right before our eyes. My mother was a public school teacher. We know that education is the key that unlocks the door to so many opportunities. We need to make sure that we not just restore it, but we rebuild it in a way where equity is centered. And I want to make sure that as we expand access to opportunity, that we give every young person a path to something. There should be no dead ends. So if they want to go to a 4-year university, great. If they want to go to a 2-year or go to a trades program, great. But we should be investing in those kinds of programs, trades and technical education. And we need to make sure that we invest in our small businesses, because to me, creating generational wealth is something that I hear across the state, especially in so many Black communities, around not just being able to start a business and have a small business, but to grow that business, to make sure that there's succession planning so that wealth can transfer to the next generation, and we can really see a change of trajectory in our families. And then I think the last category of what people are looking for is someone who's going to fight to protect their rights and democracy, because all of it is at stake. We've protected women's reproductive rights in Illinois. I want to see a restoration of Roe v. Wade and the rights that were protected under Roe. I want to make sure we pass in the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, because once again, voting rights are under attack. And we need common sense gun legislation, because I'm talking to too many families. I live on the south side of Chicago, and there's just too many families in our country who have experienced, I've been personally indirectly impacted by gun violence, and that trauma is it's very real for so many communities, and we just have to take action. We passed an assault weapons ban in Illinois, and I'm going to take the kind of leadership that I brought to Illinois to Washington, D.C.
And so putting together a winning campaign during one of the most important election cycles in this modern day democracy, what do you need, and what is it going to take to win a campaign in a year that's going to be very cluttered around priorities of what states and who we should go, the balance of who's going to control the U.S. Senate?
Yeah. Well, what I always say is that this is the first time in 30 years that this seat has been available in Illinois. And sometimes people say, well, then does it matter? And what I say is, A, the seat matters, but B, it matters who's in the seat. Because this moment requires the kind of energy that's needed. I mean, when I'm talking to people and you ask, what am I hearing from people around the state? People are looking for new energy. They're looking for new perspectives. They're looking for new ideas. And they really aren't in a place where they're saying, well, whatever's been the same old, we just want to kind of keep going with the flow. No, they want to see courageous leaders. They want to see boldness. And they want somebody who is going to center how to improve and improve their lives and see government as a partner, not a roadblock. And too many people view government as a roadblock, and we have to change that. So what I need is, first of all, I have to do the work of, I'm proud of that we have built a winning coalition in my campaign, not just Governor Pritzker endorsing my candidacy, Senator Tammy Duckworth and Congressman Danny Davis and former Congressman Bobby Rush and Ambassador Carol Mosley Braun, the first Black woman to ever be elected to the U.S. Senate, and about 140 others all across the state that have joined the team. But needless to say, I'm working hard to get my message out and connect with as many voters and earn their support, because that's what's most important. And so to do that, I'm going to have to raise resources, and I'm confident that I can raise the resources that I will need for this race. But that's what I'm spending a lot of my time doing, getting to know people, raising the resources, because when people hear my story, when they know my message, what the polling shows is that I can win this race. And I can win this race, but what I also like to say is I plan to win this race.
Yeah. In a state that has sent a Black man named Barack Obama to the U.S. Senate and the first Black woman to serve in the U.S. Senate. So this is certainly a race that we're going to continue. If you're not watching, you should watch, because it shows the possibilities of Black leadership and Black women's leadership. And so we thank you again for being a Black woman who leads, but also we know that she's got next.
Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you again to both Juliana Stratton and Robin Kelly for sitting down with us in our nation's capital to talk about their run to be the next U.S. Senator. We have an opportunity to go from 2 Black women into the U.S. Senate in 2026 to 3 to 4 to 5. There are Black women running across this country. That primary is on March 17th. So check in the chat how you can be engaged. So tonight, you heard from Black women who are not waiting their turn. They're not shrinking their vision. They're not backing down in this crazy world we're living in this politically toxic world. They are actually being solution forward, and that part of that solution forward is that they're running for office, many of them running for higher office. But leadership doesn't happen in isolation. These candidates need our support. The power in the Higher Heights community is that we help to use our time, talent, and treasures to move this movement forward. We need your voice. We need your reach. We need your commitment. It is sharing and talking about these women in these races. It's about supporting them with donations, may it be $3 to $1,000. So it's supporting institutions like Higher Heights to be able to ensure that we're building the infrastructure so that you can volunteer. You probably said, when Jay said, phone bank, you've never made a phone call, we will show you all the tools and the training and the opportunities to volunteer. We need your help sharing their story. We need your help opening doors to your community and contributing our resources. We know that when we do that, we help to elect Black women. I saw in the chat that you're talking about Detroit. Yep, together we helped to elect Mary Sheffield last year. She was just sworn in as the first woman and Black woman mayor of that major city, and she's hit the ground running. time and time again since we were founded, we have sent Black women not only to run, but they also have been leading over 12 years. And so I thank each one of you for being incredible leaders, for taking the time to share with us, and to sit and hear the stories and the vision of these women. So thank you to Amanda Edwards, Jasmine Crockett, Keisha Lance Bottoms, Juliana Stratton, and Robin Kelly for saying yes to running for office, to yes to higher heights. To come and for you to hear their stories. We thank them for their courage. We thank them for their willingness to answer the call in this really tough moment. High Heights cannot be more proud to stand with these women as they continue to help us build the political power of Black women in 2026 and beyond. When we invest in Black women, we strengthen our democracy and move our countries forward. Thank you to Team Higher Heights for all the work that they do and the work they did to produce this evening. Please stay engaged, please stay informed, and let's stay ready because this moment is ours because those women, they've got next. She's got next. Have a good evening.
To the man, more concerned with his rims and his Timbs and his women. Him and his man come in the club like hooligans. Don't care who they your fan, Papa Yang. Like you got yeah. Let's not pretend. The one that pack pissed out by the waist, man. Crissed out by the casement. Still the name of this basement. The pretty face man claiming that they did a bid, man. Need to take care of their 3 and 4 kids. Been the face in court case when the child support late. Money taking, heartbreaking. Now you wonder why women hate men. The sneaky silent man. The punk domestic violence man. The quick to shoot the semen. Stop acting like boys and be men. How you gon' win when you ain't right within? How you gon' win when you ain't right within? How you gon' win when you ain't right within? Come again. Yo, come again. The red train come again. And 6 train come again. call me over. Not on the bed, lay me on your sofa. Call before you come, I need to shave my cha-cha. You do or you don't, or you will or won't cha. Go downtown and eat it like a vulture. See my hips, big hips, so cha. See my butt, then my lips don't cha. Lost a few pounds in my waist, go yeah. This the kind of beat that go ra-ta-ta. Ra-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. Sex me so good, I say blah, blah, blah. Work it, I need a glass of water. Boy, oh boy, it's good to know ya. Is it worth it? Let me work it. I put my thing down, flip it and reverse it. It's your primitive, it's why yet. It's your primitive, it's why yet. If you got a big, let me search it. To find out how hard I gotta work, yeah. It's your primitive, it's why yet. It's your primitive, it's why yet. If you're a fly gal, get your nails done. Get a pedicure, get your hair did. Boy, lift it up, let's make a toaster. Let's get drunk, this gon' bring us closer. Don't I look like a Holly Berry poster? See the Belvedere playing tricks on ya. Girlfriend wanna be like me, never. You won't find a chick that's even better. I make you hot as Las Vegas weather. Listen up close while I take it backwards. Okay, begins to listen me what you want. I'm not a prostitute, but I can give you what you want. I love your braids and your mouth full of phones. You love the way my butt boom, 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 boom. Keep your eyes on my boom, boom, boom. You think you can handle this? Don't. Take my thong off and my tail go boom. Cut the lights on so you see what I can do. Is it worth it? Let me work it. I put my thing down, flip it and reverse it. It's your primitive, it's why yet. It's your primitive, it's why yet. If you got a big, let me search it. To find out how hard I gotta work, yeah. It's your primitive, it's why yet. It's your primitive, it's why yet. Boys, all type of boys. Black, white, Puerto Rican, Chinese boys. Wine, thang, 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 thang. Wine, thang, 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 thang. Girls, get that cash. If it's 9 to 5 or shaking your ass, ain't no shame, ladies, do your thing. Just make sure you ahead of the game. You know, Missy still super duper, but Prince couldn't get me change my name, Papa. Hooter can't tell you slave again, no sign. Picture black saying, oh yes, I'm massa. No. Got a Lamborghini, so I drive faster. Just to make your haters even freaking madder. Admit I'm the shit, name one new batter. When I drop this record here, you won't even matter. Why you act dumb like, duh. Say you act dumb like, duh. As the drummer boy go brr-pum-pum. Give you some of that cinnamon. Is it worth it? Let me work it. I put my thing down, flip it and reverse it. It's your primitive, it's why yet. It's your primitive, it's why yet. If you got a big, let me search it. To find out how hard I gotta work, yeah.